Hello and welcome to Manibil. This time we are going to try something different. I'm going to analyze some Bernardo. Oh yes, a recurring theme. Um, every day I love him less and less. I was humming some melodies in my recent series. There's a great British sort of post new wave band called Kaiser Chiefs that I can really recommend if you are into sort of simple, new wavy, modern, pop oriented rock with an edge and an attitude. I can really recommend a British band called Kaiser Chiefs. And they have a song called Every Day I Love You Less and Less, or something, or maybe I'm paraphrasing a bit. But I remember it's the first song I heard by them from an album called Employment, I think it's called. It's brown with sort of a label, a yellowish. And the first song starts out with "Every day I love you less and less," and it's like, okay, these are not romantics, right? So I was like, okay, you got my attention. I'm listening, right? So I can recommend it's a great band. So and their videos are also good fun. So, but I have this sort of paraphrasing that feeling into Bernardo Castro. Every day I love him less and less, right? Uh, just to put a label on it, right? It's the more I listen to him, the more I dislike him, both as a sort of as a person, as if I was sitting in a bar having a beer with him, and his philosophy and how he argues for various aspects that is it gets more and more incoherent as he wants to encompass everything in his thinking, right? Now, if you want to explain everything and discuss it, while at the same time you have an ontology that says everything is one thing, right? It's basically saying you're full of shit, right? You're full of shit. But if you reduce and reduce as reduce, I can refer to my recent a couple of series on ontology and discussing what I mean by reduction, right? If you reduce and reduce and end up with, I mean, if you're doing a reduction, right? Philosophical ontological reduction, you are taking things away. You're reducing what is left, like making a soup, in order to figure out this is the found. I mean, it's not a good analogy to talk about a soup or anything like that. But by reducing, at least you're sort of remove. Okay, this is not foundational. I'll put that aside. Put it on the shelf. I'll bring it back later, but I put it on the shelf, right? Reducing. Okay, this is not foundational. I'll put that on the shelf until you get down to this is the foundations of everything in my thinking. Then it can't be everything because you did a reduction, right? It's like searching your cupboard somewhere down, finding an object down in your cupboard somewhere. Oh, I have found everything, right? It can't be done. It's self contradictory. You can't reduce into everything, right? It's a self refuting structure. You're bullshitting yourself, and then you're bullshitting me and the rest of the world potentially, right? And your whole Essentia foundation is basically one big pile of garbage, then, right? Because the foundational shit is not rigid. You can't reduce yourself into everything. And if you are then alluding to there's only one category that he has stated, bernardokastrup, in the series I have, or in the book that I scrutinized in my recent series, then he's saying I'm reducing into one category. So there isn't actually any categories, because if there's only one thing, there is one category, right? So everything is that one category, which is one thing. Or is he implicitly saying, without stating it clearly, that there's only one kind? There's one category because there's only one kind. So he's atomizing that category into things that are only made of the same thing. Superstring theory, right? It's all strings. You could call it mind, you could call it whatever you want, right? So it's all superstrings. But then he hasn't reduced sufficiently. He can't reduce into a category that is made of the same. He's saying then that category is also a superstring. Because he needed to get to the superstring in order to say that it's a category, right? So as soon as I get I'm not sure what the hell he's talking about, it's a surefire sign for me that it doesn't work. It has to be something that I feel confident and I feel secure in what he's saying and the terms he's using and, right? He can't say that he's reducing into, he also, defines his ontology base as spatially unbound universal phenomenal consciousness, something like that, right? Well, why is he adding all these extra terms? Isn't it because he is working from this superstring theory, right, of mind? And then it's just it starts to ripple somewhere and therefore he's experiencing tomato, right? It's not good enough, right? Because you can't reduce yourself away from a phenomena in your mind, because the phenomena is the reason why you're doing this ontology. So you can ontologizing yourself away from your phenomena in order to get up some hairspray schemes of an understanding of what is going on. Because what is going on is your phenomena. There is nothing else you have, right? You might imagine something beyond your phenomena. Okay, but let me hear some good arguments for that then, right? So ontology, as I've stated several times in my previous series, and I've honed my opinion on this and my philosophy on this, it has to be purely a description of your phenomena. And how do you describe your phenomena? If you want to base that or your further philosophy beyond your ontology, then there has to be a structure to that ontology that allows you to argue further. Otherwise, you're just describing the bicycles, the tomatoes, there are theories. There's somebody who says science. There's UFOs, whatever. And so what, right? So it's the structure that is necessary, in my opinion, for further philosophy beyond ontology. That's why you need a structure. But when you are in your ontology, you only have phenomena to work with. And if you only have phenomena, the reduction base has to be a particular phenomena or a category of phenomena that explains, or from which you explain, quote, you can't explain, but which you structure the rest of the phenomena insofar as you can structure it by describing them from that reduction base, which is a particular kind of phenomena, right? Otherwise, you're fucking with me. You're bringing in proto-ontology, preconceived understanding of how things are supposed to be understood, right? And then you're not doing philosophy. Then you're just saying, I have my own ideas, now I'm going to pretend I'm creating a new philosophy, but I'm actually bringing my own philosophy along and just presenting my preconceived understandings and interpretations of what is going on in order to fool you into thinking I'm doing a new philosophy. Doesn't work. Okay. With that rant out of the way, is sort of an entry point for criticizing this, right? I'm taking a stab at a new video or recent video from Essentia Foundation called The New Worldview to Explain It All. Q&A with Bernardokastrup, right? Your guru is going to talk to you, the cult leader. What about this? The New Worldview to Explain It All. It sounds like, the Lord of the Rings, right? One ring to rule them all. One philosophy to rule them all, right? Okay, it's maybe a little kitschy, a little notch appeal, right? But I wouldn't want to align myself with literary work who has put sort of the words into Lord Sauron, the incarnation of evil, who said the one ring to rule them all, right? Okay, let's dig in.
The U.S. Navy has finally acknowledged that videos appearing to show UFOs flying through the air are real.
There's footage.
Okay, so now the government, when the government is always right? People who call themselves government are such philosophical angels that when they say something, it is always right. You're always getting truth. You're always. You are now allowed to discuss. You won't be called a conspiracy theorist anymore if you discuss. Because, by the way, we have had some videos of shit going on, right? Now it's no longer officially a conspiracy, right? You little peasant out there, go and be concerned about aliens, right? While we're screwing with the monetary system over here. And if you think we are doing that, that's a conspiracy, right? But no, aliens and flying saucers, that's, we have some videos here. Go and knock yourself out and be concerned about this bullshit that has no relevance for your life, right?
And records of objects in the sky that we don't know exactly what they are.
The recent disclosures.
Well, it's a dark blob on my video screen, right? So maybe there's a malfunctioning camera, or it's a lens flare, or who gives a flying fuck, right? It should be called unidentified flying fuck, right? A UFF.
Around UAPs are only one example of how our current
UAPs? So now it's called UAPs? What would be that be? I haven't. I have, maybe I have. I'm not really sure. But I'm reminded that there's a new term. Now we call it something different. Now we don't, UFO is sort of associated with crazy conspiracy. Now we call it UAP. It's almost like it's something different now. Now it's serious. Now we have a new. What's it called? Short. What's it called when you use spellings or letters only? Truncation.
metaphysics of materialism is being challenged. Because how...
Oh, really? By UFOs? Oh, man. They're what can we grab? What kind of mysticism and woo-woo shit can we grab, right? Oh, in order to confuse you into thinking, maybe Bernardo is the wise old sage that's going to tell me how the world works. Because UFOs, you know?
How do you make sense?
No. The point of these UFO things is wishful thinking, right? Maybe there's life on other planets. Maybe they're traveling here. Maybe they want to contact us. Maybe. What if? I don't give a flying fuck, right? These unidentified flying fucks, I don't give a fuck, to be honest. If something weird lands in my backyard and some little weird green creatures, maybe Mr. Bean, right, comes out of the whatever thing and says, take me to your leader, I would say, I have no fucking leaders. Go fuck out of my backyard, you little crazy bastards, right? But then I might take a photograph, and maybe I would invite one of them in to have a cookie and an espresso and say, this is what we eat on this planet, right? Maybe I'll say, well, do you have nice looking chicks on your planet, right? Do you have feminism over there in Alpha Centauri? Do you have feminism? Fuck, you have, 25th wave feminism. Alpha Centauri. Little green monsters, right? I might take some photographs. I might try to communicate with them. Fine. Well, until that happens, right? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck, right? And thinking about this UFO, right? if they're extraterrestrial and they're not Nazis from the dark side of the moon or whatever, right? They have been traveling at least 4 light years of distance. If they could move at the speed of light, it would take them at least 4 years to get here. So why wouldn't they make sure that they interact with us? Why are they always, a little blob on the screen somewhere, right? Yeah, we will travel 4 light years, but we're not going to land. No. We'll just flow around and be obscure so they will think, oh, there might be something out. Fuck you, man. Right? I mean, maybe you could come up with all sorts of explanations, and that's usually what people do. If they say, what if they're aliens from another planet? Okay, so then why are they not landing? But then they will come up with all sorts of excuses why they're not landing and say, hello, we come with feminism, right? So they can't do it. They can't communicate. They're from another dimension. Fuck off, right? Fuck off. Spend your time more wisely than being confounded or wrapped up in what ifs about flying saucers, man.
Of objects that seem to defy the laws of physics and that perhaps aren't even physical at all.
Oh my God, sis.
I got that.
If you wanted to take a right-hand turn, it would take you roughly half the state of Ohio to do it. And yet what we're seeing are objects that can do 90-degree turns.
So they have an obvious objective physical phase to them. But they mix the physical phase with the...
Oh, woo-woo music, right? Woo-woo, spacey music. Oh, they're from the Pleiades, right? Hey, dude, you interviewer, Mr. Q&A, right? Stop associating yourself with these fucking crazies, man. Right? What are you doing? Are you fucking crazy?
mental phase. They don't make a distinction between the two. It's as much a mental projection as it is an objective physical.
Flying saucers.
Now, which metaphysics allows for that? Materialism? No.
Oh, so that if you like flying saucers, right, you should come over to our metaphysics, because materialism doesn't account for what is going on there. No, it can't do it, but we can. We can explain it, right? Because we have mind everywhere. Oh, this is sort of a no, but you know, if you want to appeal to crazy people in order to mobilize a following, isn't it a sign that your whole philosophy is fucked up from the ground? Because you need to find somebody who's crazy enough. They can't understand a rigid argument, apparently. No, you have to talk about you fucking UFOs, man, right? To me, it's like, okay, I'm out of here, right? Yeah, just go play with your philosophy, right? Have fun. I'll deconstruct it afterwards, right?
This video is not only about UAPs. It is about anomalous phenomena in general that materialism cannot account for. Think, for instance, about altered mental states like psychedelic trips or near-death experiences. And less exotic.
Yeah, but it's this, okay, somebody told me about an experience. Now I have to explain it. Oh, these people over there explain it. But I just deconstructed, or scrutinized was the term I used, the ontology of Bernardokastrup, right? And it doesn't fit. It doesn't hang together, right? It's not coherent. It is taking a wrong turn, very quickly stepping into abstractions, and then knocking yourself out in abstraction upon abstraction upon abstraction in order to describe everything using abstractions, right? That is completely misguided ontology, in my opinion. And it's because I think, that's my take, right? It's because there's already an idea implanted in his head by himself or somebody else where it should lead, right? One of the fallacies of bad thinking is I'm going in my philosophy where I want it to lead because I need this explanation of what is going on because it makes me feel good some way. I don't want it to lead somewhere where it feels like it's okay to have Donald Trump running the show or something like whatever, right? Whatever it is, once the psychology has taken over the will to do rigid philosophy, it'll also take a left turn and a right turn where he needs to in order to get to the conclusion he wants, right? I'm not buying it.
But perhaps more important, how materialism cannot account for human consciousness itself, thereby basically reducing...
What? Cannot account for it? What is he actually saying? I know this is not bernardokastrup. This is sort of this slightly goofy Christian boy looking dude, right? Who's sort of paraphrasing what he's been told to say by the cult leaders in this Essentia Foundation, right? He said something like, materialism, I'll hear it again.
Materialism cannot account for human consciousness itself, thereby basically reducing human existence to an anomaly in our universe.
Yeah, okay, I understand what he's saying. But it has a very strong taste of straw man, right? Yes, I understand that materialists think that their experience is an actual outside of themselves, right? They think that they are just a part of a larger experience that they somehow have access to, right? When you try to argue for how materialists think, you very quickly get into something that is completely ridiculous, right? They can't explain it, right? They simply cannot explain their metaphysics because materialism is a kind of metaphysics, in my opinion, and it is misguided. If you take, for instance, a dude like the illusionist, what's his name, Keith Frankish, when he tries to explain materialism, it's impossible to basically get a grasp of what the fuck he's saying, right? And to me, it's a surefire sign that they don't know what they're talking about. As soon as something gets very harebrained and complicated and so on, it might be somewhat up to the presenter's ability to make something fairly clear, but it doesn't have to be more complicated than it needs to, right? This attention to parsimony is also sort of important. If it's very unparsimonious, I don't really trust it because I don't believe it has to be that way, right? It doesn't seem necessary, right? I think the notion of philosophy having to be extremely complicated arrives from particular philosophers in history like Immanuel Kant and Hegel and other, maybe Aristotle to some extent, and other people, that their ability, people who are very intelligent and very academic in their approach, intellectuals, right? They are extremely good at juggling abstractions. But my point would be they are probably just juggling around abstractions and sitting in abstraction land and kind of baffled about the actual direct experience, which is my base for my ontology, right? Colors and sounds and taste and abstract cognitions of elephant and so on, right? That's the foundation. I mean, it's quite simple to me, at least, right? Go, please check out my series on my ontology in a recent series. It's called Manny Beale's Ontology ABC Rule or something like that, right? It's fairly recent, within the last month, right? And why would you want to make it complicated? I mean, why would you want a complicated philosophy? I don't want a fucking complicated philosophy. I want a simple philosophy that works for me without any flaws in it, of course, right? And if it needs to be somewhat complicated, and I can't find any way to make it less complicated, okay, so be it so far, right? But, nobody is going to tell me that bernardokastrup is not going to tell me that his everyday is working from an ontology that is only one category, but takes him 140 pages just to elaborate on. Right? I know that the conclusion of the ontology is not the whole philosophy, because there's all the arguments for how he ends up with that ontology. But it cannot be fucking 140 pages just to elaborate on it. Then I'm not buying it. Right? It has to be at most a one-pager, and you can maybe use the reverse of the page also, right? 2 pages, right? And no more. Otherwise, you're fucking with me, right? You're living in abstraction land, and you're not connected with any kind of direct access to any thing that I am experiencing, right? In my ontology, there are 3 main categories, right? The qualia, the cognitions, and the abstractions from these cognitions, right? And these abstractions in the third category, category C, there might be need for further categorization at a later point, right? But at this point, it's fine just to have these 3. But very quickly, these kinds of academics, they roam around in my category C and come up with all sorts of weird, interesting, whatever, about these abstractions. So they sort of forget about the everyday experience of tomatoes and bicycles and so on, right? So they live in abstraction land. When you show me an ontology or any kind of similar philosophy by anyone, which is not purely abstraction, please let me know, right? Yes, I was back to this half straw man here. Yes, no, but what materialists are they are describing their experience, but because they think that experience is an outside world, they are left with a hole in that world, which is where that experience actually is, right? They take the experience as bernardokastrup and place it outside themselves, but because they took and placed it outside, there's something missing now. That hole is where they think their minds should be. And then they describe this world, which is actually their experience, and think they can come up with an explanation for that hole. But the hole is only there because they removed the experience from it, right? So, saying that because they fucked up their understanding of their experience, that they're actually not dealing with consciousness. No, all they're dealing with is a consciousness, because they are actually the ones who are saying, I am working from empiricism, right? Show me a materialist that isn't an empiricist. I'll show you, crazy person, right? All materialists are very empirical, at least to some extent. They fuck up the understanding of empiricism, I would say, right? They don't stick to their own rules, but at least they have some level of empiricism. That does not go for idealists, right? They have left in their cloud castle balloon and are living among their abstractions, right? They don't care about empiricism. They don't care about colors and cognitions and all that. You will never see tomatoes or elephants or bicycles mentioned in their philosophy at any point, right? Bernardokastrup talks about dials. He uses a metaphor to describe his direct experience. He's not even mentioning direct experiences. He's talking about it in a metaphorical sense already in the starting point, right? That's a problem. You're not living in a metaphor, right? A metaphor is an abstraction. So you're starting with an abstraction, creating another abstraction and a further abstraction, and then you come up with mind is everything, and then you knock yourself out in a whole bunch of new abstractions, right? And then say, done it, I explained it, right? Doesn't work.
We identify with our conscious inner life, and we are told that nature is not conscious. Nature is just physical in the sense of being something completely distinct from
Okay, what is nature then? I have not yet seen a definition of what he means by nature. What is that? You can't start to talk about abstractions without clarifying how you get to it, right? You can make up an abstraction and say, hey, oh my God, I have an abstraction. Now I need to explain that abstraction. What are you using to explain the abstraction? Well, you need an ontology, right? That's why you need an ontology in order to not just come up with shit that you then need to clarify. Where did that shit come from? Well, I bet you it came because he has some direct experience of colors and sounds and taste and cognitions like elephant and bicycles and so on. So that's where his ontology should go, but he goes in the other direction, right? He says, I'm going to come up with abstractions that will explain this abstraction called nature. So he's living in abstraction land, right? Now, that is bordering on a mental illness, I would say. It's because of, I think, a psychological need that it's a balance, right? Do you have integrity enough, right? Do you have self-criticism enough? Are you a strong-willed person who's not going to allow yourself to be lured away by what you want, right? What is the balance? Is it somebody who wants something because it feels good, or is it somebody who's actually arguing rigidly for this? I think the balance tips very strongly, indeed, in the direction of this guy is arguing for what he wants, not where necessary argumentation, how it should be put together, good argumentation, and where it then must lead, right? And where it cannot lead, because he cannot say anything. He's all over the place when it comes to this, right? So that's why I don't trust a guy like Bernardokastrup, because I have a very strong sense that he tries to get where he wants to get because it makes him feel good, right? And I think that most philosophers work this way. Yeah, they might have a PhD, so what? So the fuck what? Because they might have gotten a PhD from other philosophers or pretending to be philosophers who have the same approach, right? So they have been groomed into this kind of thinking, potentially, at least, right?
consciousness. So it feels like we are anomalies, like we don't belong here. We are ephemeral anomalies that come to an end very quickly.
What if we wouldn't see our conscious inner life as an anomaly, but as the fundamental nature of reality? And what if I would tell you...
How about you not strawman the materialism in order to convince people that it's completely fucked up, right? Why don't you say that no, materialists just need to realize that what they are referring to is actually just their own experience? That they are then sort of talking to them, to their experiences, conforming or relating each other's experiences into an objective understanding of what is going on. Why don't you say that? No, because that's not the purpose here. The purpose is to convince you that materialism is completely fucked. Everything doesn't work. We have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have to come over to us because we're the only worldview. We can explain it all. The one philosophy to rule them all, right?
That taking mind instead of matter as fundamental in our universe is completely compatible with our current understanding of physics.
Okay, but
world...
so the physics that materialists are doing is not functional then, right? Or what? What is this our understanding of physics? Are they only idealists, or are there also materialists among them, or physicalists, or whatever you want to call them? So they're doing physics, but they have a bad metaphysics. Doesn't that influence how they understand the physics? So all this physics you're referring to, isn't it infused or inflicted with bad metaphysics and potentially dysfunctional then? You say, okay, the materialists, among whom I suspect there are a lot of scientists, scientific and physical physicists and so on, right? That you just said they have a bad metaphysics, but now you're saying idealism loves physics made up by people who suffer from a bad metaphysics that is in direct opposition to our idealism. How does that work, right? It's like they're bad, but now we are going to take the what they have written about the and it conforms perfectly. It's just what I I'm hearing, right? This is a semi-religious, semi-political, it's sort of a it's this kind of cultish movement or something. They want to they want to get some momentum by trying to convince people that they have a better understanding of their own experience that is going to give people something. You will get something by following us, right? I'm looking forward for them to tell me what it is they're going to hand over, right? Because nobody is going to follow something if they don't get something out of it, right? Then I could ask myself, what am I getting from this, right? Well, what is my purpose? Why am I doing this? Because I must be doing it for a reason. I don't do shit without any reason, right? I can only hope that I can convince you, and I've convinced myself at least, that my purpose is I want to get to the fucking perfect philosophy. A perfect, complete philosophy that deals with everything I need to deal with. That's my purpose. That's why I keep digging, right? I want the fucking perfect philosophy. It's probably not possible. I mean, how would I know, right? But it has to be sufficiently perfect to me, to my standards. Then I'll be satisfied. Then I'll probably stop philosophizing. I might keep going still in order to make sure, haven't I actually gotten to the perfect, right? It's a lifelong endeavor. But at some point, you need to say, I have done it now, right? It's close enough for rock and roll. You might keep thinking about maybe there's something here and there's a new inputs there, and whatever, you want to be on top of it. You don't want to say, I have done it. Now I don't need to think anymore. Just have to follow my own rules. But that means I have to go all the way. Go all the way down to the reduction base, and from that I have to go all the way up to what I would say is the achievement crown of my philosophy, which is the perfect moral principle. Right? That is the crowning achievement of my perfect philosophy. It is sufficiently perfect to be bulletproof. Right? According to my own standard. I can't ask somebody else to set the standard for my philosophy, right? I have to do it myself. That's why I'm constantly appealing to you as a listener. Think for yourself. Please tell me about it. I might be inspired, right? Think for yourself. You have to come up with your own philosophy, right? I think that is enough for this part here, right? It's a one. I have got 2 minutes and 20 seconds into it, right? And that's 1 hour and 37 minutes to go, right? Okay, let's see how far I get with this. They are, they are willing to, Essentia Foundation are willing to have me shot by their government if I do something or make some statements about their philosophy that they don't like, which they have shown in a previous incident, right? That they are willing to have me shot by their government if I don't comply, right? So that's the level of love that they want to show the world, right? Okay. That's enough for part 1. Have a nice day. See you in the next one.